Governor Marcus Stone stood on the observation deck of New Haven Station, watching the twin suns of the Kepler system paint the sky in shades of gold and amber. 200 years had passed since the last transmission from Earth reached their world. 2 centuries of silence, growth, and preparation. "Sir, we have incoming ships on long-range sensors," Captain Lisa Walsh announced as she entered the command center. Her voice carried the calm authority of someone who had spent decades preparing for this moment. Stone turned from the window, his weathered face showing no surprise. At 65, he had governed the Kepler colonies for nearly 3 decades. His grandfather had been among the first settlers, and his family had always known this day would come. "How many?" Stone asked, moving to the central display where Walsh was pulling up sensor readings. 12 vessels, possibly more. Their signatures don't match anything in our databases. "They're big, Marcus, really big." The holographic display showed massive ships approaching from the outer system. Each vessel was easily 10 times larger than their biggest colonial transport. They moved in perfect formation, their hulls gleaming with the distinctive energy patterns of advanced shielding. "Time to intercept?" Stone inquired. 6 hours at their current speed. They're not trying to hide their approach. Stone nodded thoughtfully. The colonial government had spent decades preparing for first contact with whoever ruled the galaxy now. They had hoped it would be peaceful. The size and formation of the approaching fleet suggested otherwise. "Send a message to all colonial worlds. Execute Protocol 7. Stone commanded. Walsh hesitated for a moment. Protocol 7 meant war preparations across all human settlements in the system. "Are you sure, Marcus? Maybe they're just explorers." "Explorers don't travel in battle formations, Lisa. Send the signal." Across the Kepler system, human colonies received the coded transmission. On mining stations, orbital platforms, and the 3 inhabited worlds, people moved with practiced efficiency. This was not panic, this was preparation. Dr. James Carter looked up from his research station as alarms began sounding throughout the underground facility. At 43, he had dedicated his entire career to understanding the ancient technology they had discovered on Kepler 442b. This ruins of a vanished civilization had provided humanity with tools and knowledge far beyond what Earth had possessed. During the Great Expansion, "It's time, isn't it?" asked his assistant, Dr. Emma Ross. Carter nodded grimly. 200 years of preparation. Let's hope it's enough. 6 hours later, the alien fleet reached the outer planets of the Kepler system. Their leading vessel, a massive dreadnought covered in weapon arrays, transmitted a message on all frequencies. The voice that emerged was harsh and commanding, speaking in perfectly translated English. "Primitive inhabitants of this system, I am Admiral Vex of the Altarian Empire, speaking for the Galactic Council. Your world has been selected for incorporation into our domain. Surrender immediately, and your deaths will be swift." Stone listened to the message from the command center of New Haven Station. Around him, his senior staff waited for his response. Captain Walsh stood ready at the communications console. "Open a channel," Stone said quietly. "Channel open, sir." Stone stepped forward, his voice carrying the authority of a leader who had never known defeat. "Admiral Vex, this is Governor Marcus Stone of the Human Colonial Alliance. This system belongs to humanity and has for the past 2 centuries. You are not welcome here. I suggest you turn around and leave while you still can." The response came quickly, filled with what sounded like laughter. "Humans? We destroyed your pathetic species decades ago. Whatever primitive survivors you represent cannot stand against the might of the Council. Prepare to die." Stone glanced at Walsh, who nodded grimly. They had hoped for peace, but they had prepared for war. "Admiral Vex," Stone said, his voice now carrying a cold edge. "You clearly don't understand who you're dealing with. Allow me to provide a demonstration. On the view screen, they watched as Admiral Vex's fleet formed an attack formation. The lead dreadnought powered up its main weapon, a planet killer capable of cracking worlds in half. "Fire when ready," came the alien transmission, clearly intended to be heard by the humans. A beam of pure destructive energy lanced out from the thing. Dreadnought aimed directly at New Haven Station. Stone and his crew watched calmly as death approached at the speed of light. Then something impossible happened. The energy beam struck an invisible barrier 10,000 kilometers from the station and simply vanished, absorbed harmlessly into a shimmering field that briefly lit up the void of space. Admiral Vex's voice came across the channel again, but the arrogance was gone. Now there was only shock and growing fear. What? What did you just do? Stone smiled grimly. Welcome to human space, Admiral. We've been waiting for you. Asterisk. The emergency session of the Galactic Council convened within hours of Admiral Vex's shocking report. In the Great Hall of Nexus Prime, representatives from hundreds of species gathered around the central holographic display, showing the impossible footage from the Kepler system. Emperor Thane of the Draconian Empire slammed his scaled fist against his chair. This is impossible. Our intelligence networks confirmed that humanity was extinct. Their home world is nothing but ash and radiation. Prime Minister Zara of the Centauri Federation studied the replay of the human shield technology with calculating eyes. Clearly, our intelligence was wrong. The question now is what we do about it. We destroy them before they become a threat, growled General Knox of the Terran Elimination Corps, the military unit that had been responsible for hunting down human refugees after Earth's fall. I've spent 30 years ensuring no human survived. To threaten galactic peace. Admiral Vex's image flickered in the chamber as he transmitted from his flagship. With respect, General, these aren't refugees hiding in cargo holds. Their shield technology is beyond anything we possess. My planet killer weapon was completely neutralized. One primitive colony with stolen technology. Thane dismissed. We'll send the Grand Fleet. 300 ships will crush whatever defenses they've cobbled together. Prime Minister Zara nodded slowly. Agreed. Ready the Armada. This human problem ends now. Meanwhile, in the Kepler system, Governor Stone stood before the Colonial Senate in the underground chambers of New Haven. Representatives from all 3 human worlds and dozens of orbital habitats filled the curved amphitheater. The galaxy knows. We're here now, Stone announced. For 200 years, we've prepared for this moment. Our ancestors came here as explorers and colonists. We've become something more. Senator Tom Bradley of Kepler 442c stood up. Marcus, are we really ready for a galactic war? We have maybe 50,000 people across all our colonies. Dr. Carter stepped forward, carrying a datapad containing classified research. Senator Bradley, may I? Stone nodded, and Carter activated the chamber's main display. 20 years ago, we discovered ruins on the northern continent of Kepler 442b. Civilization that built them called themselves the Builders. They were the galaxy's dominant species over 10,000 years ago. The display showed images of vast alien structures, their surfaces covered in intricate patterns that seemed to shift and flow like living metal. The Builders didn't just build cities, Carter continued. They built weapons, shields, and tools that worked by manipulating the fundamental forces of reality itself. We've spent 2 decades learning to integrate their technology with human engineering. Captain Walsh stood up from her seat among the military advisors. What James isn't telling you is that we've done more than just study their technology. We've improved it. The chamber fell silent as the implication sank in. Our ships don't just have shields, Walsh continued. They can phase through solid matter. Our weapons don't just fire energy beams. They bend space itself. We've built a fleet that the galaxy can't even comprehend, let alone defeat. Senator Mary Foster from the mining colonies raised her hand. How many ships do we actually have? Stone exchanged glances with Walsh before answering. The aliens detected 12 ships in Admiral Vex's fleet, because that's what we wanted them to see. Our actual fleet strength is classified, but I can tell you this, we have enough. 3 days later, the Grand Fleet of the Galactic Council emerged from hyperspace. At the edge of the Kepler system, Grand Admiral Rex, a veteran of 100 conquest campaigns, stood on the bridge of his flagship watching his armada deploy. 300 vessels, spread across space in perfect battle formation. Dreadnoughts, cruisers, destroyers, and carrier. Ships from dozens of species, all united in their determination to crush the human threat. Long-range sensors show the same 12 human ships as before, reported his sensor officer. They're holding position around their primary world. Rex smiled coldly. He had overseen the destruction of entire star systems. These colonists know. Matter how advanced their shields would fall like all the others. All ships advance to attack formation. Target their orbital installations first. Let's show them what real power looks like. The Grand Fleet moved forward, weapons charging in. Shields at maximum. Rex felt the familiar surge of anticipation that came before victory. Then his sensor officer spoke in a voice filled with disbelief. Sir ... We're detecting massive energy signatures throughout the system. Ships are decloaking everywhere. Rex spun to face the tactical display and felt his blood turn to ice. Hundreds of human vessels were appearing from nowhere. Space stations emerged from asteroid fields where nothing had been detected moments before. The 12 ships had been joined by an entire fleet that had been invisible to their most advanced sensors. How many? Rex whispered. Still counting, sir. At least 400 ships and growing. Rex stared at the display as more human vessels continued to decloak around his fleet. They weren't just outnumbered, they were surrounded. Signal the council, he ordered quietly. Tell them we may have made a terrible mistake. Grand Admiral Rex stared at the tactical display as more human ships continued to materialize around his fleet. What had seemed like a simple conquest was rapidly becoming the largest space battle in galactic history. Admiral, the human fleet is moving into attack positions, reported his tactical officer. They're not responding to our surrender demands. Rex had sent 3 separate messages offering to negotiate, but the humans maintained radio silence. Their ships moved with perfect coordination, surrounding the Grand Fleet in a sphere of death. Sir, incoming transmission from the human flagship. Governor. Stone's image appeared on the main screen. Behind him stood Captain Walsh and other officers that Rex didn't recognize. Stone looked calm, almost sad. Grand Admiral Rex, Stone began, you came here to destroy us. Your council believes humanity is weak, scattered, and broken. Allow us to correct that misconception. The first human ship to attack was a sleek vessel barely a quarter the size of Rex's smallest destroyer. The alien crew watched in fascination as it approached a draconian heavy cruiser. Their weapons aren't even powered up, laughed Rex's gunnery officer. What are they planning to do, Ramos? The human ship suddenly vanished. For a moment, Rex thought it had retreated into hyperspace. Then alarms began screaming throughout his flagship as the draconian cruiser simply ceased to exist, where a massive warship had been floating moments before. There was now only empty space and expanding debris. What happened? Rex demanded. Unknown, sir. The human ship phased through their shields and hull, then reappeared inside their engine core. The cruiser was destroyed from within. Rex felt ice forming in his stomach. Ships that could pass through solid matter were beyond anything in galactic technology. All ships, emergency scatter formation, random evasive maneuvers. But the humans were already moving. Across the battlefield, human vessels engaged alien ships with weapons that defied understanding. Energy beams that curved around defensive barriers, missiles that existed in multiple dimensions simultaneously, and fighters that seemed to predict where enemy ships would be before they moved there. Captain Walsh commanded the human fleet from the bridge of the New Dawn, Stone's flagship. Around her, holographic displays showed the battle unfolding across millions of kilometers of space. Human ships are reporting minimal damage, her tactical officer announced. Alien fleet cohesion is breaking down. Walsh nodded grimly. 20 years of preparation were paying off, but she took no pleasure in the slaughter. Signal all ships. Disable when possible. Destroy only when necessary. These people have families too. On his flagship, Rex watched his armada being systematically destroyed. Ship after ship simply vanished from his tactical display. The humans weren't just winning. They were demonstrating complete technological superiority. Sir, the Centauri. Battle Group is requesting permission to retreat, his communications officer reported. Denied. We outnumber them 3-1. Admiral, his sensor officer interrupted. We're detecting massive energy buildup from the human planet. Something big is powering up. On the surface of Kepler 442b, Dr. Carter stood in the control room of humanity's most secret facility. Built into the planet's core using builder technology, the installation had taken 50 years to construct. James, are you sure about this? Stone's voice came through the communication system. Carter looked at the readouts showing Rex's fleet, desperately trying to regroup for another attack. Marcus, they're preparing to use Star Killer missiles. We can see the energy signatures charging. If we don't stop them now, they'll try to destroy our entire system. Authorized. Fire when ready. Carter placed his hand on the activation panel. Emma, initiate planetary defense grid. Dr. Ross nodded and began the startup sequence. Deep beneath the planet's surface, ancient builder machinery hummed to life, channeling the planet's core energy through crystalline focusing arrays. In space, Rex watched in horror as his sensors detected impossible energy levels emanating from the human world. All ships emergency jumped to hyperspace. Now, but it was too late. A beam of pure coherent energy, wider than most starships, lanced out from Kepler 442b. It struck Rex's flagship and simply stopped. The ship wasn't destroyed. It was frozen. In time and space, held motionless by forces that made gravity look weak. One by one, every alien ship in the system was caught by similar beams. 300 vessels, the pride of the galactic military, hung motionless in space like insects trapped in amber. Stone's voice echoed across all frequencies. Grand Admiral Rex, your fleet is disabled, but not destroyed. Your crews are unharmed. You will now listen to what humanity has to say. Rex, trapped on his immobilized flagship, could only watch as Stone continued his transmission to the entire galaxy. For too long, this galaxy has been ruled by fear and oppression. Species conquer other species, the strong dominate the weak, and peace exists only when someone is too afraid to fight back. This ends today. To every world listening to this transmission, humanity offers a new way. Join us, and we will protect. You oppose us, and you will share the fate of this fleet. The choice is yours. Across the galaxy, billions of beings watched the impossible footage of humanity's victory. The age of council dominance was ending, and something new was beginning. Rex closed his eyes, knowing his career, and possibly his life, was over. The humans had won, but somehow he suspected the galaxy might be better for it. The emergency. Council session on Nexus Prime had devolved into chaos. Representatives screamed at each other in dozens of languages, while footage of the Kepler battle played on endless loop. 300 ships, the largest military force ever assembled, had been defeated without destroying a single human vessel. Emperor Thane stood at his podium, his scaled face twisted with rage. This is impossible. No species can advance this far in mere centuries. The evidence suggests otherwise, replied Prime Minister Zara coldly. She had been studying the battle. Recordings with growing unease. Their technology appears to violate several fundamental laws of physics. General Knox slammed his fist on the table. Then we gather every ship in the galaxy, 1,000,000 vessels if necessary. We cannot allow humans to exist. But across the chamber, other voices were beginning to speak up. Chancellor Bob of the Peaceful. Vegan colonies stood slowly. Perhaps, he said quietly, we should consider the humans' offer. For 3,000 years, this council has ruled through fear and oppression. Maybe it's time for something different. Thane turned on him with fury. You would surrender to these primitive colonists? I would consider peace with a species that could have destroyed our fleet, but chose mercy instead. Similar conversations were happening on worlds throughout the galaxy. On the mining world of Titan's Rest, human colonists who had hidden their identity for decades suddenly revealed themselves to their alien coworkers. You single quotes read ... human? Asked Kex, a Altarian engineer who had worked alongside Tom Miller for 15 years. Tom nodded, pulling out a hidden communication device. Tom Miller, Colony 47, reporting to Colonial Command. We are ready to declare independence. Across the galaxy, 47 hidden human colonies began broadcasting the same message. World after world that had been thought empty or occupied by other species suddenly revealed thriving human populations. On New Terra, in the Vega system, Governor Helen Davis stood before a crowd of 50,000 colonists. Behind her, the flags of Earth and the new Human Colonial Alliance flew side by side. For generations, we've lived in secret, afraid to reveal our true nature, she announced. Today, that fear ends. Today, we take our place among the stars. Dr. Carter worked frantically in his laboratory on Kepler 442b, coordinating with human scientists across the galaxy. The quantum communication network they had developed allowed instant contact between colonies separated by thousands of light years. Emma, we're receiving technological data from 37 colonies, he reported. Each world has developed unique applications of builder technology. If we combine everything, Dr. Ross looked up from her console with excitement. James, the colony at Alpha Centauri, has developed gravity manipulation technology. The settlement near Rigel has created matter conversion systems. We're not just one advanced colony, we're an entire civilization. Meanwhile, Emperor Thane had not been idle. In secret chambers beneath the council headquarters, he met with military leaders from across the galaxy. The Galaxy Purification Fleet will be our final solution, he announced to the gathered officers. Every warship from every member species. 10 million vessels united for one purpose, the complete elimination of humanity. Admiral Kane of the Centauri Federation nodded grimly. It will take months to assemble such a force. Then we have months to prepare, Thane replied. This time, there will be no mercy. But the humans were preparing too. Governor Stone stood in the new command center that had been constructed in the asteroid belt around Kepler 442b, holographic. Displays showed human fleets gathering throughout the galaxy. Marcus, we're detecting massive ship movements throughout council space, Captain Walsh reported. They're assembling everything they have. Stone studied the tactical displays. How long until they're ready to attack? Intelligence suggests 4 to 6 months. But Marcus, the numbers are staggering. We're talking about millions of ships. Dr. Carter entered the command center carrying a data pad with breakthrough findings. Governor, I've discovered something in the Builder archives that changes everything. Stone turned to face the scientist. What did you find? The Builders weren't destroyed by a natural disaster or war among themselves, Carter explained. They were eliminated by the same species that now form the Galactic Council. The Draconians, Altarians, and Centaurians formed an alliance 10,000 years ago to destroy the galaxy's most advanced civilization. The command center fell silent. As the implications sank in, the Council has done this before, Stone said quietly. They've made a career of destroying anyone who threatens their power. Walsh looked at the tactical displays showing millions of alien ships preparing for war. So what do we do? Stone's expression hardened with determination. We finish what the Builders started. It's time to liberate the galaxy. Sir, we're receiving signals from oppressed species throughout Council space, the communications officer announced. The vegan colonies, the Tau Ceti miners, even some Altarian dissidents. They're asking to join our alliance. Stone smiled grimly. Signal all human fleets. Operation Liberation begins now. Across the galaxy, human ships began moving toward their targets. But this time, they weren't going to conquer. They were going to free every species that had suffered. Under Council rule, the final battle for the galaxy's future was about to begin.